Now, as we are about to enter version 1.6, the characters for 1.7 have just been drip marketed, and to little surprise, we will be receiving both Vivian and Hugo, which have already been shown in game and are both going to have some screen time within version 1.6. As we do already know, Vivian is an Ether Anomaly character and Hugo is an Ice attacker, which means there likely won't be much synergy between them despite previous versions featuring characters that do synergize extremely well together. Of course, whether that will be the case will be found out soon enough. But considering Anby is releasing very soon and is another attacker means there might be some conflict between whether you should go for either Anby or Hugo. Then we have Vivian thrown into the mix as a potentially valuable anomaly DPS. So with that, I'll be going over the kit potential of both Vivian and Hugo, their team versatility, then I'll be wrapping it up with their overall value and who exactly should you prioritize for your account. Before we jump into it, as always, would really appreciate it if you could subscribe for more ZenlessZoneZero content and drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Now, kicking it off with potentially the most hyped upcoming character due to her design and role, as mentioned, Vivian is going to be our very first Ether Anomaly DPS, and so with that alone, players that don't have Jiyan in particular may be more inclined to consider picking up Vivian for those stages that do favor the Ether element. Though with that being said, Vivian's dedicated disk drive set will be dropping in 1.6 and does kinda indicate for her to be more of a sub DPS than a main DPS like Jiyan. The 2-piece effect provides an 8% anomaly mastery bonus, and with the 4-piece effect, when any squad member uses an EX special attack, the equipper's anomaly proficiency is increased by 45, and if the character that activates an EX special attack isn't the equipper's ether damage is increased by 25%. So the reliance on other squad members to amplify Vivian's damage does mean she likely will be a sub DPS and wouldn't require much field time, but of course will be capable of dealing solid burst damage when she does switch onto the field, and especially when an ally uses an EX special attack to boost her ether damage. Additionally, Vivian being a sub DPS would allow her to hold significant value, since there are quite a few anomaly main DPS characters which would perform very well with an anomaly sub DPS to increase the efficiency of proccing disorder. So just like Bernice, Vivian is going to hold an immense amount of longevity and would pretty much be future-proof. Considering the main source of damage will come from the main anomaly DPS, and just as long as Vivian can deal considerable damage with a good anomaly build-up rate, she would be capable of retaining a large amount of value for quite some time. However, since it has been a while since the launch of our first off-field anomaly DPS, I would then expect Vivian to be capable of slightly more, such as increasing the amount of damage dealt from disorder or damage overall from all squad members, which would be enough to provide her with that slight edge in value over Bernice. As for Vivian's versatility in specific, given she will be an off-field anomaly DPS and would be able to increase the efficiency of proccing disorder, it means Vivian will certainly have amazing versatility as she can synergize with any anomaly main DPS. So with that, Vivian's core skill will likely be activated through anomaly characters along with either characters from the same faction or ones that share the same attribute. Though with that at least, we can say for certain characters such as Miyabi, Yanagi and Jane will synergize very well with Vivian, since they do all require a lot of heal time and all have shown to perform incredibly well alongside Bernice, which means they should work just as well alongside Vivian. However, taking another look at Vivian's dedicated disk drive set, it doesn't actually require an anomaly character to pop an EX special attack in order to boost Vivian's ether damage. So Vivian has potential to even work with attackers along with anomaly DPS characters, which means a mono ether team consisting of Jiyan, Vivian and Astra Yao could perform quite well, or possibly even with other attackers such as Evelyn or Silver Soldier Anby. So with that, Vivian will definitely be flexible within team building and would be a great character to consider picking up due to the potential she holds as an anomaly sub DPS. Now within the second phase of 1.7, Hugo is an attacker many players are also likely interested in picking up and will no doubt hold quite some value, though perhaps not as much as Vivian since he is in fact our second ice attacker after Ellen, which makes him much less unique and would have some serious competition, since he is going up against Miyabi, which is not only the best ice DPS but the best DPS in the game. So considering it's quite unlikely that Hugo is going to power creep a Void Hunter, and with us having 2 attackers releasing back to back from version 1.5 and 1.6, I do expect Hugo to be very different to the attackers we have recently received. In specific, as both Evelyn and Anby are attackers that do require a lot of field time, Hugo might then switch it up with being an attacker that doesn't require much field time and could be a solid dual/burst DPS. Perhaps may even utilize off-field capabilities just like Vivian and have a much more unique kit than other attackers. Now with that being the case, despite the initial reaction to Hugo being an ice attacker was that Ellen is now completely irrelevant, being a burst DPS could save Ellen from being completely replaced, as she on the other hand requires a lot of heal time. So for the sake of keeping Ellen relevant, it would make sense for Hugo to be quite different to Ellen and would be able to provide a different playstyle than the usual we have had with recent attackers. Although with that being said, it is Hoyoverse, and so Ellen mains should definitely prepare for the possibility of Ellen being replaced quite soon, especially since it's fair to expect Hugo to be an incredible burst damage dealer and would deal similar numbers to recent attackers. All in all, at a time where characters are receiving more intricate kits as seen with Trigger and now with Vivian, Hugo definitely has potential for an attacker and should be able to stand out a bit more with a unique playstyle or a set of abilities than what we are currently used to. Now in regards to Hugo's versatility, despite being an attacker, he does in fact have great versatility, but that is more due to the amount of stun characters that are currently available that would synergize extremely well with Hugo. Specifically with Lighter and Lycan, they would synergize very well as they both specialize in supporting ice type characters. Lighter would of course be the best in slot choice, since not only will he be able to increase the ice damage dealt from allies and shred ice resistance from enemies, but can also extend the stun window by 3 seconds to allow Hugo to deal more burst damage. Lycan on the other hand is also able to shred ice resistance from enemies and can increase the stun damage multiplier, which would enable Hugo to deal higher amounts of burst damage. So Lycan doesn't fall too far behind Lighter, and considering he is a standard banner character, a lot of players by now may have picked him up and so would have a solid character already for Hugo. Alternatively, Changli would be a great stun option, as her main strength is to increase the stun damage multiplier significantly, which would allow pretty much any DPS to benefit from. Lastly, Pulchera at M6 should also be a great stun option for Hugo, as she can buff all damage types. But again, that will require Pulchera to reach M6, which you may not achieve for a while if you are skipping Anby's banner for Hugo. So as for a main DPS Hugo, there would be quite a few options for his stun partner that majority of players by now should at least have one of. As for a dual DPS Hugo, of course take it with a pinch of salt, but Ellen, Hugo and either a stun option such as Lighter or a supporter like Astra could work quite well. That is, if Hugo does turn out to be a DPS that requires little field time and performs more like a sub DPS. Either way, Hugo will have great versatility for an attacker, but in terms of longevity, I wouldn't bank on him having that much unless they do really go in with the utility Hugo provides through his kit along with his DPS capabilities. Overall, Vivian and Hugo both hold a ton of potential to be amazing characters, although I do believe Vivian will stand out the most from the upcoming banners, as not only is she dropping as our first Ether Anomaly character, but will specialize as an off-field DPS and will hold immense longevity. Hugo might not be too far behind Vivian, since he is expected to have a unique playstyle as an attacker and no doubt will be a strong DPS. However, between them in general, Vivian will hold the most value, as anomaly characters tend to just be more valuable than attackers, and especially due to being an off-field sub DPS. So if you do have multiple anomaly DPS characters on your account and you don't have Bernice in particular, then you likely should consider picking up Vivian more than anyone else from the upcoming banners. On the other hand, if you are looking for an attacker instead, Anby and Hugo will hold a lot of value as attackers regardless, but since Anby is expected to be much easier to play and deals great DPS, then for those that are simply lacking in DPS characters to help clear through content in general would then be better off with Anby, given Hugo is likely going to be much more complicated to utilize than usual. In addition, pulling for Anby will allow you to also pick up Pulchra, which is a new A-rank stun character that is arguably the best in slot for Anby until trigger drops. With that, you can more or less complete the attacker and stun duo with just Anby's banner. Meanwhile, Hugo would only benefit as much from S-rank stun characters or if you do manage to pick up an M6 Pulchra. So especially for newer players, Anby would be much more free-to-play friendly and will require much less of an investment from your account. Either way, both attackers will definitely be great, though for now I believe Anby will be the more solid option, and if you already have Miyabi in specific, then there wouldn't be much of a reason to pick up another Ice DPS as she still does obliterate all content. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Would really appreciate it if you could subscribe for more ZenlessZoneZero content, and if you enjoyed the video, drop a like. Also drop a comment down below on who exactly will you be pulling for between Anby and the characters in 1.7. And yeah, hope to catch you guys later.